Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Mind the Moment's Tuesday morning gathering, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. And this is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them, and then to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino, and I'm so happy to be here this morning with Rebecca Wang, who is a licensed clinical therapist and mindfulness instructor with Harvard Pilgrim.
Good morning,
Rebecca.
Good to see you. Good
So
to be
nice
with
to have you.
everybody.
Yeah, in your colorful background and your smiling face. So it's nice to have everyone joining us this morning on this lovely Tuesday morning. And today we'll start off with a question for the group.
Yes.
Rebecca will share some thoughts with us and then guide us in approximately 12-minute guided meditation practice. And for anyone that's new, no concerns. There will be guidance throughout and reminders, and just you're not on your own. So we're happy to have you. A special welcome to anybody that is new this morning. All right. So, and if you can go to the bottom of your screen and open up your chat, that's how we communicate with one another in this Zoom world. And just click on the drop-down menu that says everyone at the bottom of the screen, and then you can see everybody's chats coming in. So with that, Rebecca, what question do you have for the group this morning?
That's the question of the morning here. So because it's summer, and so often we tend to gravitate outdoors now this time of year, the question is, where do you go in nature, whether it be a location or a kind of setting? Where do you go in nature to feel settled, to calm? Where do you go? So for some people, it might be, a specific location that they go every summer, or for other people, it might be a daily trip to the park. But where is it that you really feel, in a sense, gathered so that you can settle and create some state of calm for yourself? Especially this time of year in the summer months. Yeah, I know for me, I'm blessed because I live on a beautiful property here, and I live in the country. So for me, I'm here all the time, and I so appreciate how, obviously, if you live, in a place that's more of an urban setting, that you oftentimes have to go someplace to really get that sort of bath in nature, feeling yourself bathed in that calming setting. Yeah.
And I love the first person that Sarah, I think it was, the ocean or the woods. Those are my spots, and especially the water. And I have a place in the woods that I stop by, and I'll sometimes meditate, that has like a little babbling brook, and that's a good spot for me. But a lot of good comments coming in here, and this question has gotten people really interested. My backyard, someone else is blessed with a beautiful backyard. The beach, once I make it through all the umbrellas. I was there this weekend, so I understand. Where I can smell the earth, trees, or sea.
That's beautiful.
That's wonderful, Kristen. Daily walk near the misty river to enjoy birds and plants. My back porch. Backyard, I'm on big oak trees and birds. All sounds good. And
so one of the things that we're going to do for the meditation today is do a sound meditation. And the reason for that is because, oftentimes we think of mindfulness practice and meditation as being the traditional point of focus, being the breath, of course. And that's very useful. And the aspect of meditating in nature is that if you've ever tried it, it's unavoidable to be immersed in sound in whatever way that is, whether it be the ocean waves, or whether it be the bird song, or whether it be the breeze in the trees. There's just this continual sort of mandala of sound. In other words, you're in the center, and all around you, 360-degree bubble is sound going on. And this morning, since obviously we're all in different locations, but we can still think about that sense of opening our awareness, our ability to hear and really allowing the mind to center its attention on the sounds. And the thing about sounds are normally, unless there's somebody with a machine that's going consistently, but frequently the sounds are random, right? They come and they go. It's not necessarily always a sustained single sound. So this is a different kind of meditation because it means that your point of focus, being sound, will actually shift from one thing to the next, depending. And the thing that I want you to get curious about during this particular sound meditation is notice the mind's tendency to want to evaluate or name the sound you're hearing. It's an interesting aspect of our human mind, our brain, that it wants to make sense out of what it is we're hearing, or it wants to validate or judge, in a way, the sound that we're hearing. So experiment a little bit this morning with being with the sound absent a sense of trying to assess or figure out the sound, and simply be with the auditory quality of whatever it is that you're hearing. And the interesting thing is, if you're sitting in a room where it's very quiet, well, then there's a quality to silence as well. So extending your ears to really take in the space because of the sound that's absent is another form of sound meditation. So we're going to, in a way, have 2 points of focus. We're going to start with the breath so that we can really gather ourselves. But then I'm going to invite you to extend your awareness out to sound. So let's get a posture that's comfortable. Helpful to have both feet flat on the floor. Find a way to let the hands rest in a way that's comfortable, whether it be on your knees, resting folded in your lap, or on the arms of the chair. And let's just make a decision to let the busyness of the morning go. Nothing to figure out right now. And we can encourage our mind to arrive in this moment, in this room, in this body. Allow yourself to invite a state of calm awareness as you settle more deeply into your body, upright and at ease. Allow your awareness to notice the rise and fall of the breath. Just a gentle attention, in breath and out breath. The mind will drift into thought, no problem. Allow the thought to come and then go, sort of like a swinging door. It enters and then we let it go. Settling back into calm awareness of breath. Allow your awareness to expand to the space around you. Allowing the mind to pay attention to the variety of different sounds that come and go, or perhaps one sustained sound, resting the mind in the rise and fall of breath and an awareness of the sounds around you. You may notice that there are sounds that are close to you and sounds that are farther away. Simply allowing the mind to attend to whatever's arising, a choiceless awareness to sounds coming and going. And if you get too pulled away, you can drop back into the body and the breath. Twofold awareness, breath and sound. Notice the drift. Gather the body and the mind back into one. Breath and sound. as we move towards the end of the practice, drop the form of it entirely, giving your mind permission to do whatever it wants to do now, and simply resting. So, not doing much of anything, just resting. Before we close the practice, give yourself some time to feel a sense of accomplishment that you've taken this time to practice, and to remember that there's no such thing as a good or a bad meditation, that simply the act of practicing is a success in itself. And allow yourself a moment or two of acknowledging that effort and that accomplishment that you've done this morning. So, as we end the practice, take your time. It's helpful to take a deeper breath in, moving the hands and feet, maybe a little stretch this morning as we end the meditation.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You are welcome.
Very helpful.
I don't know if you could hear my soundscape. There's a lot of bird activity going on outside my window. I have one sparrow out here and another sparrow out there, and they're having a conversation on either side of me this morning.
They're like, why is it so quiet in there?
Yeah, I think it's amazing to, when you allow yourself to just rest in sound, sometimes there's so much going on. Frequently, you're not aware of it because you're focusing on something other than sound. And that's another aspect of mindful awareness, of recognizing that at any given moment, there can be tremendous amounts of activity going on around us. And just that settling in and noticing, you begin to take it in more with more awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked paying attention to the sounds that are close to us as well as the sounds that are farther away.
Yeah.
I did still find myself evaluating because I do have cars going by, and I was like, I'd be listening to the birds, and then the cars would go by, and I'm like, that's okay. All right, go back to the birds. So
I have a short story I can tell about that. I had a friend who was a meditator, and he lived up in the mountains, and in his morning meditation for about 3 days, he was disturbed by the sound of chainsaw in the distance. And it was a continual whirring of the chainsaw. And he's this beautiful mountainside, beautiful environment. But his judgment kept coming up of, oh my gosh, they're cutting down trees and how horrible. And I hate the sound of that. The sound is just grating on me. And he really had a hard time letting go, of course, because it was consistent. And the next month, after all the cutting had happened, whatever had happened with it, the next month he decided to create a treehouse for his son. And he started clearing brush and cutting down a few trees, or clearing some of the trees around to create this treehouse. And he recognized in the moment that he was feeling joyful and the sound of the chainsaw wasn't bothering him at all. And he realized that it wasn't the sound of the chainsaw that was bothering him the month before. It was the evaluation of what he thought the chainsaw represented. So it's a classic example. There's this absence of judgment that allows us to be with something with simply an attentive awareness that is different than when we are resisting or evaluating what the sound actually is. And of course, it's a very challenging practice because, our brains are kind of wired to evaluate and to judge. And so it's another aspect of getting familiar, just like you said, oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's a card. Let's just come back to breath, reconnecting. And that's why the breath is always a helpful anchor when using sound, because you can always come back if you feel like you're being pulled out too far. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, and also what Sarah's mentioned, the layers of sound, because the fact that the birds were here as well, it was easy for me to find something, that I wanted to rest in, but again, we have to kind of feel that feeling of allowing it all,
Yeah.
and that's part of the practice as well. When we think about emotions, there are emotions that are like birds that are really pleasant, and emotions that are like cars.
Coming and going. Yes. And I think that is the wisdom of meditation, when you recognize the coming and going of all phenomena, right? The coming and going of breath, the coming and going of emotion, the coming and going of sound. You recognize that, nothing stays. It is a continual changing process, being a human, that we can become fixated on one thing as if it is not changing. But when you really pay attention, you recognize, that's different now. It's different now. And that's the beauty in so many ways of meditation in nature. If you go this summer, let's say you're going to take a vacation and you go to someplace beautiful where there's really only nature sounds or mostly nature sounds, you can really start to appreciate the rising and falling of phenomenon all around you. And it's just such a good reminder, because sometimes we get attached to thinking things never change and always stay the same. But in fact, nope, especially in nature, always changing, things coming and going. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good reminders for sure. Yeah. And Kristen's mentioned this, that she's got a ringing in her ear and she's had to let go of the judgment of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, tinnitus. I think about that, and that recognition that if it's consistent, continual sound, it can be that much more challenging. Yes, I have several clients. I'm a mental health counselor as well who have tinnitus, and they're always having to work with their relationship with it. And I have others who deal with anxiety, and they talk about how sometimes their breath sounds ragged. And so the sound of their breath can be very distracting or even exacerbate their anxiety. And so we talk about, just settle into recognizing the sensation of the breath, and the sound is sort of a coming and going process of whatever else is around you. Because when our bodies make sound and sometimes they're not pleasant. Reminding me of a meditation group I led, and one of the gentlemen, his belly was making the most amazing digestive sounds, and they were so loud. And there was a group of about 15 of us. And at the end of the meditation, he said, I'm never eating my daughter's deviled eggs again. And I told him, well, actually, for me, it was kind of nice to have something other than my thoughts distracting me. It was this incredible sound coming out of you.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So we aren't together with humans as much anymore in groups, but it's, we're a noisy bunch, that's
Mhm.
how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. One thing I've always pondered, and I thought I found somewhere, and I'm going to try to figure out that if this is the case somehow, that I'm understanding that the brain can only process one sense at a time. I thought I read that somewhere, that
Hmm.
if you're noticing the breath, it's difficult to notice the sounds at the same time. So it's like you're going back and forth from
Yeah.
one thing to another.
Yeah, they call it toggling. The brain toggles.
Hmm.
And so it is aware somewhat simultaneously, but really ultimately it's shifting back and forth between sound, breath, 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 sound, sound. And that's why, we're not supposed to multitask, because
Hmm.
we're not really multitasking. We're toggling back and forth between the two things. So it is a real capacity of the mind. Although I will say, after meditating daily for 35 years in my own practice, I'm getting closer to probably understanding that the toggle becomes almost imperceptible, that there can actually be moments of noticing an exhale and the sound of a bird
Hmm.
simultaneously. But it is that brain training, right? You're learning how to really unify certain qualities of attention that takes practice to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, very interesting. Thank you so much for being here, Rebecca. It's always
A
nice to have
pleasure.
you on our session, and bringing us to a different type of practice. So we're so
Mhm.
happy to be together and to practice together. And thank
And
you to the group as well for
yes,
joining.
may all find some rest and calm in nature in the next couple of months. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, nice to see everyone, and hopefully see you tomorrow and Thursday. So have a good rest of your day.
Bye bye, everyone.